Hello and welcome to the Metal Matters podcast. It's Tri-State Steel talking endurance today and triathlons and athletes, local athletes in our community. Joe Dexter, we're joined with Matthew Clancy of E3 Endurance. How's it doing, man?
It's great. It's great. Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm looking forward to this. When we talk Tri-State Steel, and the first thing I think of is endurance. But endurance is such an interesting word. And before we talk the triathlon series, endurance is more of a word, more than a word. It's a lifestyle. I think it's one of the more underrated things when it comes to discussing toughness and discussing just what it means to fully endure. I think we got in today's day and age that the faster we get something done, the better. The faster something is completed, the greater we are. But to endure and to be strong enough to compete for a long time, whether it's in life, whether it's on the track, whether it's in the pool, whether it's out in the water on a bike. I think that's a key valued asset that everyone needs.
Oh, sure. Yeah, when I think of endurance sports, a lot of what our athletes do, they use their heart and lungs to get them toward that finish line. But usually the finish line doesn't come just based on duration and getting through the time. It's overcoming all the challenges that when you think of the word endure, all the struggles, all the sacrifices, all the this pain and the suffering that we have to overcome in order to get to that finish line. And um, I think a lot about that with junior athletes and just long distance endurance events. It's a lot of physical, but it really challenges us mentally to try to get through all those challenges, and all those challenges challenge us to want to quit or stop. And we just have to keep enduring them and overcome them to get to that finish line.
There's a lot of parallels between what we do at Tri-State Steel and what is done in a triathlon. I think it's a great partnership. Tri-State Steel and the NC Junior Triathlon Series have come together with. Share a little bit more about it and the parallels you see as well.
Yeah. So back in 2008, we started a junior tri series here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And the goal was to introduce kids to the sport, the swimming, the biking, and the running, and what triathlon means. And what we found, and we put 3 or 4 races on every year, that a lot of these kids, they love swimming and biking and running. It's a real easy sport for kids to be a part of because they love to swim, they love riding their bike, and they run everywhere they go. And then to package it or put it in something that challenges them, we found that these kids loved it, and they thrived on racing, racing all 3 sports, and then having that finish line, and then having a series to take 3 or 4 efforts or 3 or 4 races to accumulate and to see how they do against not only all these other young competitors, but against themselves. How do they get better throughout a 3 or 4 race series? And we thought it was going to be, a neat idea, but it's taken off and taken off and taken off. And we've had kids in this series since they were 5, and now they're 18 or 19 years of age.
That's awesome. That's great to see. And I think that I imagine, not being to one, but I imagine that what's one of the great things to see on race day is that you're seeing the evolution of racers. You see that 16, 17-year-old running through and the improvement they've made. And you see the 5, 6, 7-year-old at a different pace, but you can see that their pace is improved. Like I imagine that's some of the thrill for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And just watching these kids grow over the last 10 to 15 years. I think this is our 17th year putting on the series. And, we've had this one gentleman that's been in the series since literally 4 or 5 years of age. He just turned professional triathlete at 18 years of age last year, and he's now 19. A lot of these kids that have grown up and been a part of the series have now gone on to either collegiate NCAA women's triathlon, or professional men's triathlon, or collegiate club men's triathlon. A lot of these kids they're just at such a high level at such a young age, and just the opportunity for them to learn a sport or to race this sport, um, it kind of captures that vigor, that youth, that mentality of of doing something that isn't easy. And I find that a lot of young people enjoy that or thrive, or they desire that challenge. Um, and you just see these kids coming back and back and back and just getting better and better and better. And it's a joy to watch them go from these little people to these these amazing adult athletes. It's cool.
Tell me a little bit more about the 2024 NC Junior Circuit. I know you start June 8th in Greensboro. Tell us a little bit more about the other races and your race start June 8th.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have partnered with Tri-State Steel this year because I think where we're gonna go because of this partnership is pretty amazing. Um, this year, we're not only just doing races in Greensboro, we've added a race in Winston-Salem. We've we got a race in Greensboro June 8th. We've got a Winston-Salem race July 27th and 28th. We come back to Greensboro in August, and we've added the Wrightsville Beach Sprint Triathlon as our finale race, September 21st down in Wilmington. And that race is the oldest race on the East Coast. It is a classic. It is one of the better races this country has. And the race that's over in Winston-Salem is one of the largest kids triathlon in the country as well. So having not only taking our Greensboro series, but added all these great races to join in, we're going to have a 4 race series that's going to be one of the better series in the country. It's going to be really awesome, and each race has a different course, some slightly different distances to challenge these guys in many different ways. It'll be really fun.
At Tri-State Steel, I know our partner Steve Scott, one of the things that he loves is development each day, trying to get better each day and continue to build each day. Athlete development, I imagine, through the triathlon circuit is something that you see and something that is very impressive. And seeing what an athlete can do in those conditions, I imagine mentally and physically it builds them for other sports too if they're interested in other sports. And it's also the ultimate competition. It's something competition wise, talk not just maybe necessarily against others, but against yourself. You're always trying to better yourself.
And I think that's one of the interesting things that people find in the sport of triathlon is that there's 3 sports, and there's a couple different transitions you have to make between the sports, and not everyone's just walks up to the start line of triathlon being a great swimmer, great biker, and great runner. You could be really, really good at one, but not be very good at the other. So training for 3 sports at once is a challenge in itself, and being humble in a way that maybe you're the best cyclist there ever is, but wow, I really need to get myself in the pool and learn how to do this sport. And maybe I could be a better runner. And you're trying to figure out 3 things at once, and then you're trying to put them all together. Um, it's a lot, and it's intriguing. And when you're really good at something, but you're also trying to get better at something else, I think it I think for young people as well as adult triathletes, there's a lot of humility in our sport. And I think that humility helps make better competitors. We're None of us are perfect at swimming, biking, or running. There's always something we need to get better at. So when you line up against all these other athletes, you may be last out of the water, but heck, your bike and run might be so good that moves you up to the front of the race. And just understanding as an athlete trying to get good at 3 sports, what that takes. So your appreciation for the people that you're competing or participating with, um, it just builds a really good community. And that's one of the things why I reached out to Steve and Tri-State Steel was I think Tri-State Steel understands community more than anything else. Steve and his wife Cheryl have supported our series for years, coming down just to help out and just to point kids in the right direction on the bike course or the run course. So it really brings out the people that want to share in this sport and help grow the sport, help these kids have the best experience they can have. So
Well, those
so it grows that foundation you're talking about to where these kids go, oh, this is really cool. I love the people, I love the sport, I love the athletes, and let's keep doing this. Let's try to get better at it.
I'm just sitting here thinking not just of that physical, the platform that's built that way, but then you think mentality wise, it's a good rendition to get you prepared for life, because you're not going to be good at everything. You're going to be good at some things. You're going to be better at others, and you're going to have to trench through some other things, but you can't stop. I
Right.
mean, it's pretty much that simple. And to be a young athlete, to be able to endure that physically, you're enduring that, right? You're preparing for that. You're training for that. You're getting ready for that. I don't think it is sold enough that mentality wise, building to your future, you're building that too when you're competing in that sport and when you're just training for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Life is not easy. Um, it's harder for some people more than others, but no matter where we come from or where we're trying to get to, yeah, life, there's no game plan, there's no blueprint. It is, you have to navigate or figure out a way to do your best every day, and overcome the challenges that come every day, just in, walking out of the house, or even just trying to get out of bed or get into that workout, or going to work, or trying to get home, or trying to go to that next level of either life or your job, or racing. Um, and and there's always what I think is interesting about the challenges of life, and how, and being an endurance person in this world, is we're always trying to figure out how to be better, but sometimes we spend so much time looking at how to navigate the world. But if what I like about triathlon is it forces you to look internally when you're battling those demons out there on the run course or the bike course or the swim or the challenges. You have to find what's inside of you and pull that out to overcome those challenges and get to that finish line. And I think as a 7, 8, 9 year old, 12-year old, I think knowing that no matter how hard it is, you know that you can find a way to the finish line because you've done it so many times before. Yeah, I see a lot of athletes that have gone through our program over the last 15, 16 years, now are young adults in the workforce, and they're just amazing people, and they've found a way to get to the finish line that they're trying to get to. So it's a great skill to have at such a young age. um, and such a neat challenge to build that skill to be able to overcome thyself.
It's the NC Junior Triathlon Series powered by Tri-State Steel, getting underway June 8th with the first of 4 races this season. That's in Greensboro. Where is that event at?
It's at Pine Top Sport Club. It's a local swimming club, tennis club, where the athletes will start in the water. They snake swim up and down the pool, for multiple different distances. We start the 5 and 6 year olds at they swim 25 yards. The 13 to 19-year olds swim 250 yards, and everybody in between does a shorter distance or a age appropriate distance. Um, and they snake down the pool. When they finish all the lanes, they hop out, run to their bike in transition area just right outside the pool gate, and they'll go bike a 1.8 mile bike loop. It's got some hills in it. We were riding, practicing our shifting tonight with the kids. And the younger kids do 1 loop on the bike. The middle kids do 2 loops, and the older kids do 3 loops. So it could be 3.5 to 5.5 miles of biking. Once they finish all their loops, they come back to transition, head out for a multi-loop run. The younger kids do 1 lap, which is a kilometer, 0.62 miles. And then the middle kids do 2 kilometers. And then the oldest kids do the 3-kilometer loop, or 3 laps on the run. And then they cross the finish line. So why we do that multiple loop format, if you've ever watched triathlon in the Olympics, it's a multi-loop format. They do 2 laps on the swim. They do like 7 or 8 laps on the bike, and 4 to 5 laps on the run. Not not that we're not trying to build Olympic athletes at this young of age, but we designed our racing style, at least for the Greensboro race, to mimic that type of racing so that, heck, when they get 18 and they turn pro, which we've seen a couple kids do, they go right into that Olympic style racing. And hopefully they'll be the next Olympians coming out of North Carolina.
For those that are interested in more of the series coming up, how can they find out more information? And also, if you are somebody that's interested in triathlons or interested in endurance sports, what are some key paths to get started?
Sure. Yeah. So we have set up a website, NC Junior Series.com. That's the home for the series. Our website is e3endure.com. That's where we do a lot of stuff for triathletes in general, from ages 5 years old to 75 years old. But trying to find clubs in your area, uh, groups like E3. There's a lot of tri coaches in the state of North Carolina. North Carolina is one of the, I would say, the most dense states in the entire country for triathlon. We have a ton of great coaches. We've got the most NCAA varsity women's triathlon teams in the country, in our state, as well as one of the best junior tri series in the state now. But finding a local club, finding a local coach through USA Triathlon, um, or finding a local junior team, or there's a triathlon in North Carolina every weekend, every day, for 6 months out of the year, if you're willing to drive between 30 minutes and 3 hours between the coast and Asheville. It's everywhere. But yeah, you just Google search it, or just reach out to myself or E3 Endurance. We'll be happy to help steer you in the right direction with someone in your community, or if you're in the Greensboro area, we'd be happy to take you through what is we do and how we like to help people from any level, from beginner to advanced. We tried to make our business model there to help everyone at every level that they're at.
All right. So say you're 38 like me, or maybe you're somebody that's interested in this. They're ready for that first triathlon, but they're nervous. They don't know what to do. What's your advice to jump forward in not just competing with yourself, but maybe going to the next level and competing in a triathlon?
Yeah. That's it takes a lot of courage to do something different, new, and it requires three different skill sets. Um, I would always recommend, if you're just curious about it, to go watch and see what it's all about. That's how I first got into triathlon, as I went and watched a race. A friend of mine's wife was racing, so I was like, oh, well, let's go check it out. And I watched what they did, and I was like, wow, that looks difficult. But something about that struck a chord with me. And I'm like, I want to do difficult things. How do I be that person? So going and seeing a race would be the first thing. And they're a lot of fun, and people are screaming and hollering, and it's a really positive experience in a positive environment. And then find a race that is distance appropriate for your skill level. There are many different distances in triathlon, via super sprint, Olympic, half Ironman, and Ironman. But just getting in the sport, I would err on the shorter race. And maybe if you're not good at swimming in open water, find a race that's got a pool swim, so that, if you're not a great swimmer in the beginning, you can stand up, or you can walk to swim, or it's a more safe environment. And then give it a go. Just figure out how to get through all those challenges. And the amount of what you'll learn in that first race will give you more experience than you'll ever find in any other race. You'll learn so much about racing triathlon, but so much about yourself. That, yeah, start small, and just find something that is going to push you a little bit.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about too is USA Triathlon and the Youth State Series. How important is starting young in something like this, in not necessarily the starting point, but introducing to youth how great of a sport this is.
Well, I think I'm a little biased, Joe, but
That's okay. That's all right.
I I think it's a great sport for kids because they're naturally doing all three of these sports, or let's maybe not everybody's naturally doing all three of the sports, but these three things usually have a this air of fun and excitement. Kids love to be in the water. They love spending time at the pool. What kid doesn't like riding a bike? And they're so young and they've got so much energy. They just run everywhere they go. I think it's a natural introduction for kids because these are all things that they like outside of competition or outside of sport. So adding the three just seems like a good fit for kids. And then if the distances are appropriate, which most junior or youth races do, it challenges the kids a little bit, but it also asks them to figure it all out. But I think it's a really positive environment, like I talked about before. All the athletes are usually encouraging other athletes. There's all the spectators are very encouraging to the kids to keep moving forward, to keep pressing through and to finish. Um, I, it's I've been around the youth this youth sport for a while, and it can be highly competitive, but I don't think that's ever taken away from the spirit and the positivity that is in the sport and that surrounds the sport and the athletes that participate in it. Um, so, and it teaches them to work on three skills. So it's great for kids that you see all this negativity or this the news about all these kids doing a single sport where they're overdoing it and they're wearing themselves out or they're burning out before they even hit 15 because they're spending so much time at one sport. It's a great cross training sport to where you're not swimming 15 hours in the pool, you're swimming a couple hours in the pool, you're riding your bike a couple hours and you're running a couple hours. So there's a good balance there that you're not overdoing any one muscle group, and it just allows these kids to develop, I think, more naturally or with a lot more balance.
It's Matthew Clancy joining us, E3 Endurance, the NC Junior Triathlon Series coming up June 8th. The start 4 races this season. It's going to be a good one. It ends up there at Wrightsville Beach. That's going to be fun, isn't it? That's going to be a great one.
Oh, Wrightsville Beach it's a classic. It's been around since I think 1979, oldest race on the East Coast. It's one of those races where you just got to put your head down, and it's who suffers the most is the ends up winning that race. And I've raced that many times, and I've never had I've never been the first one across that podium, but one of our junior athletes won that race a couple of years ago, and it was a very proud moment for me as a coach to see someone that I've trained since he was 5 to win a race that I tried to race for years or tried to win for years. And so it was a nice feeling, but it's an awesome race. It's a great environment. And they just added a youth race to it 4 years ago. And each year this race keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's a race where if you're 15 years of age, you can still do the youth race of the shorter distances. Or if you're someone who's done the race a couple of years or been in the sport for a couple of years, you could do the adult version. And it's still short enough to where it would be appropriate for a teenager to race. And it's a great finish to the regular triathlon season, but to have a finish of our NC Junior Tri Series is, I don't want to say a dream come true, but it's almost perfect, as perfect as can be. And it's always fun racing in open water. And I know they're not in the ocean, we're in the Banks Channel, but it's salt water, it's got animals in it. I don't tell the kids that too much, but there's something in the water. Hopefully you don't have to experience it. And it adds that unique challenge of now you're in an environment, you're in the real world, you're in the real water where real things exist. It just takes the level up to how hard the sport is even can go. So it's just another challenge for kids and for people to overcome. It's another fear.
It starts in June and ends in September. What a great series. And let me tell you, Matthew, we're proud at Tri-State Steel to be a part of it. And thank you for what you do for these young athletes and the athletes that are interested in endurance sports. I appreciate all that you do. And thank you for joining us here on the Medal Matters podcast.
Yeah, Joe, thanks so much. And we're thrilled to have Tri-State Steel as a part of this series. This is it's going to be it's going to make some history this year. So we're looking forward to seeing where we can take it.
And you can find out more at NC Junior Triseries.com. This is the Medal Matters podcast on ROCO Radio. I'm Joe Dexter. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful day.